Hey everybody, David the AI Guide here, and thanks to all of our subscribers. We really appreciate your support. We're on Patreon if you want to support us that way. Just a few dollars a month keeps content coming to you free with no ads. So your support would be really appreciated. And today's news, breaking news number 2, days old, is that Google has launched a healthcare AI cloud. So we've talked quite a bit on this channel about AI in healthcare, and medical records is one of the most burdensome things that a doctor has to do to maintain medical records. In traditional medical systems, you know, the kind that you see today in doctors' offices, GE General Electric is one of the biggest providers of those systems. But now the tech giants are diving in. And certainly Google, which has a very strong AI pedigree and monster cloud computing business, makes a perfect sense to roll out in healthcare. So they've released the Google AI Cloud, and what this does is 2 things. First of all, it uses NLP, natural language processing, that we've talked about before. So basically, you'll be able to talk to the AI and dictate healthcare records so that you don't have to type them into the computer anymore. And we've talked about that too. A wave of automation is coming to personal computer use that will eventually eliminate the keyboard. You won't need it anymore. They will be considered a relic of the past in the near future. So that's one cool thing that it does. Also, this NLP will read handwritten notes and allow data extraction from those handwritten notes. So even people's old medical files that are largely handwritten can be scanned in, and the AI will read them and analyze it and pull out all the critical information in terms of medications, diseases in the history, and even will take a look at gene mutations and compile gene data for the provider so that they can begin to build a better understanding of how gene mutations are causing certain diseases and therefore accelerate the development of certain treatments for those diseases. So this is all part of why we constantly describe AI as an exponential technology, meaning that it grows at a faster and faster and faster rate and is used in more and more and more applications. And these applications do a number of things, but in this healthcare setting, the first thing it does is reduce the administrative workload on doctors, which is a very high burnout profession. You may or may not know this, but the worst profession for burnout and substance abuse is the legal profession, lawyers. But the next one is doctors. And this administrative burden is a big piece of why being a doctor has become overwhelming, because with these huge chains that all medical providers seem to be consolidating into, they strictly limit the time that a doctor can spend with any given patient, and it's usually keyed off the code of why the person is there, with a little bit longer for physicals, but for other things as short as 5 minutes to 20 minutes. So maybe an average of 20 minutes, and a doctor has to see in an 8-hour shift at least 25 patients, something like that. These are metrics that these big healthcare chains are using to improve efficiency, but it has a human toll. And so this Google AI Cloud will help, by lifting paperwork and allow the doctors to be a little bit less stressed, because all that paperwork is outside of the 24 or 25 patients that have to be seen each and every day. And there's a growing and coming shortage, especially of primary care doctors, but even some specialties. We talked about one of the worst being in geriatrics for old people, a critically short specialty right at the time that the US population is aging significantly. So that's not a good situation. But the Google Healthcare AI will help reduce the administrative burden and also allow for much more easily seeing trends in data and potential causal links, right? Because the medical field is always trying to understand better what causes a given disease and what can be done to mitigate those causes, and or if you can understand the cause of a disease, then it's easier to develop an effective treatment and or vaccine for it. The perfect example of what I just said is COVID-19. And I was talking with my daughter about that. But what has just happened in the medical field is entirely unprecedented and stunning. So they have developed a viable vaccine against a disease in 6 months. It's never happened before. Before this exact example, every single vaccine ever developed took between 3 and 10 years to develop. So the pandemic would have caused an extended global depression without this unprecedented advance in speeding up vaccine development. But also, way more people ultimately would have gotten sick and died because it would have taken so long to develop the vaccine that the disease probably would have run its course, sort of like the Spanish flu did 100 years ago. That outbreak lasted 3 years. We could expect COVID to last that long, at least in the absence of an effective vaccine. And that translates into millions of cases, hundreds of millions of cases, and potentially millions of additional deaths that are being avoided because of this massive medical breakthrough. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but it relates directly to what the power of these healthcare clouds like Google is rolling out now is going to be. This is revolutionary, and it's going to make all our lives better forever going forward. That's it for today. I hope you enjoy it. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Also, hat tip to Business Insider today for bringing this out just a couple of days ago. This was big news. It hit all the major media channels, but I like Business Insider because it focuses specifically on AI applications in business. So this is super cool. So thanks a lot. Take care and talk to you next time.